All right, I'm excited to get into this. First round mock draft post Super Bowl. This is my first one. I usually do a bunch of scenarios throughout the course of the offseason. So if you like mock drafts and you want to follow along as things change in the NFL landscape, I'll be updating these as we go throughout the offseason. I also have a first round mock draft contest. So if you want to get a chance to win a jersey, all you got to do is come in first place and you wind up getting a jersey of your choosing. Don't have to be a Jet fan by any means, but let's hop into the first round mock draft here. I'm going to leave all the timestamps in the pinned comment down below, so if you want to jump to your team without having to sit through this entire video, you could do that. I'll also put all the player selections, or all the players, so if you want to just take a look at the slides, you're more than welcome to do that. Now, I don't make any money on any of this content because I use highlights and stuff like that, so if you want to drop a like on the way down there, it would be greatly appreciated. But let's hop into our mock draft. Pick number 1, we've got the Chicago Bears, and this one's one that I think everyone's probably penciled in as the number 1 overall pick, and that is Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. Now, the Bears are going to have to decide, do they want to roll with Justin Fields? And I feel like the vibe from the fans in Chicago is they want their guy, Fields. He's been like gritty for them. Could he get some offensive coaching and wind up turning everything around? The tough part is you don't normally have the number 1 overall pick, and you don't generally have it when it's not your own actual pick. I think they're going to want to reset that quarterback clock, get whatever pick they can get for Justin Fields, and they're going to wind up making their selection here at the top of the first round. Caleb Williams, 6'1", 215 pounds. You kind of know his story. He is so good, just magic on the field. Now, he is off script. That's something that, as a Jet fan, a little bit concerns me. I'm not going to lie, because Zach Wilson was not able to operate within an NFL offense. I don't think that's going to be the case with Caleb Williams. He had a 68% completion percentage this past year, 3,647 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So the guy doesn't cause too many turnover-worthy plays. Obviously a Heisman Trophy winner. He was a unanimous first-team All-American. He holds the single-season touchdown record at 52 touchdowns. He's been operating primarily out of the shotgun, so he's going to have to take some snaps under center at some point in the NFL. And then could height potentially be an issue? At 6'1", there's always, conversations that pop up. Is he actually 6'1"? Is that what he'll measure in at the combine? I'm excited about this, but this makes a whole lot of sense here for the Chicago Bears. At number 2, we're going to go down to the Commanders. This pick is going to be another quarterback. We're going with Drake May out of UNC. He is 6'4", 230 pounds. He's 21 years old, a true dual threat quarterback. 1,998 snaps in his collegiate career. He had a 63.3% completion percentage, 3,608 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. But he's also really good on the ground. 41 rushes this past year for nearly 600 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 3 fumbles. He was the ACC Player of the Year in 2022. He's got a big, strong arm. He's good at throwing off platform, and the accuracy is just on a dime. Now, how is he going to operate within the offense? Washington is moving to that Cliff Kingsbury offense, an air raid style offense. He's operated in an air raid offense at UNC. So I could see this being a really good pick for them. And it's kind of weird because Heineke last year did a really nice job, freaking losing my mind right now. Did a fine job last year as far as passing. I think he led the league at one point in passing yards too. But number 2 pick in the draft, you got to take your signal caller. New regime in there as well. They're going to want a nice fresh face for their franchise. At number 3, we're going with Jayden Daniels out of LSU for the New England Patriots. I don't love this pick because I actually like Jayden Daniels more than I think a lot of the other quarterbacks in this class because of the explosive upside that he has. At 6'4", he has an elite frame. Now, he is a lot thinner at 6'4". 210 pounds is not a very heavy player by any means. He's played 3,400 snaps at quarterback. He had a 71% completion percentage this past year, 3,800 yards through the air, 40 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. He did have 65 rushes as well for an additional 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. Now, he is going to have to get better at not taking big hits because that's going to get you hurt in the NFL. If you wind up taking a shot from a linebacker or safety, you're not going to bounce off it quite the same way as you would at the collegiate level. So if you can get down kind of like how Lamar has sort of learned to slide or dip out of bounds, I think he'll be just fine. Heisman Trophy winner this past year, Davey O'Brien Award winner. He's going to run about a 4.5, possibly a 4.4 40. I hope they let him run at the combine and it's not just some like mysterious thing. Like obviously Lamar didn't run at the combine. Elite elusiveness, very strong arm. Can he operate with inside the pocket, or is he just going to, not have his first read there and is he going to dip out and run? The other thing with him is probably to be a little bit concerned with is he's got 2 wide receivers that are probably going to go in the top half of this NFL draft in Malik Nabers and Brian Thomas Jr. So, the scale of talent at LSU is always so much higher. But I really like him. I think his ceiling is just astronomically high. I love this pick for the Patriots. I don't love it for my Jets, unfortunately. At number 4, this one's going to be the first non-quarterback going off the board. This is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State, 6'4", 205 pounds. He's the Biletnikoff Award winner. He has over 1,600 snaps at wide receiver this past year, had 67 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 14 touchdowns. He lined up 80% of the time out wide, 20% of the time in the slot, so you can shift him around a little bit. He is deemed a generational wide receiver, a la like a Megatron. Not strength-wise like a Megatron, but definitely the mystique around wide receiver, or at least this particular wide receiver, is about as high as it's been since I watched Megatron. It's 15 years ago now, I guess. Elite size, elite hands. When targeted, his quarterback had 120.3 quarterback rating. Pretty nice, means he's always open. They're thinking he might run a 4.3 40, which is a little surprising to me. That seems a little bit fast for what I was kind of watching him on tape. But if you can run in the 4.4s at all this frame that you got, you're going to be just fine. And he doesn't break a lot of tackles. That's probably the one knock against him. I love family lineages as well. You'll hear me talk about this a few times throughout like the course of my mock-off seasons, but I love when your father played in the NFL. That means from the moment you're born, you are absolutely training to be an NFL athlete, or at least, eating the right way, doing what you should be doing, that sort of stuff. So I think this is a home run pick. At number 5, I'm going to go with the LA Chargers taking Brock Bowers. With Greg Roman being over there, he really likes tight ends. You saw Harbaugh really like tight ends in his time in the NFL. This is a generational prospect here as far as tight ends go. Now, they could go wide receiver. Both Keenan Allen and Michael Williams are up as with big salary cap cut savings potential. I think Keenan Allen likely stays there. Mike Williams, I think, is probably going to get cut and he'll wind up moving on. But they did take Quentin Johnston last year to kind of prepare for that eventual move. Now, they could go wide receiver if they wanted to, but with a generational tight end right here, I think you can push wide receiver to a different part of the draft. He's 6'4". That's not right. Is that right? No, he's shorter than that. I think I have this. I think I have his height jacked up on here. He's a team captain. Over 1,000 snaps at tight end. He took 394 snaps in line, 567 snaps in the slot. Last year had 717 yards with 6 touchdowns, but he's also a really good blocker. So this is, you could also pencil in offensive lineman for the Chargers if you really wanted to, but this is sort of that weird hybrid of both. It's not quite a wide receiver, it's not quite a tackle, but he can achieve maybe a 2 birds, 1 stone type of scenario here. And with Greg Roman really leaning in the tight end room over in Baltimore with Mark Andrews, I think this is probably right up his alley. He's a really exciting player. I do hope he goes a little bit before my Jets because would be very tempted to make this selection. But this is a good one here for the Chargers. At number 6, we've got the New York Giants selecting their new wide receiver, Malik Nabers. He could be wide receiver 1 in literally any other class. This is a great pick for the New York Giants. 6 foot tall, 200 pounds. He was a Biletnikoff finalist. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. wound up getting that award. 1,700 snaps at wide receiver, 89 receptions, 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns this past year. This guy is something special with the ball in his hands. He can line up all over the field. He was lined up 46% of the time out wide and 54% of the time in the slot. So you can shift him all over the field depending on where you want to use him. He is an explosive route runner. He's got about a 40-inch vertical, so not like you can jump out the gym. Jump out the gym at 40 inches. He's a deep ball threat with elite yak ability after the catch. He needs to develop a little bit more of his routes to be an outside receiver in the NFL, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for him. Guy has all the talent in the world. The Giants could consider offensive line, but they just took Andrew Thomas not that long ago, 5 years ago. And then you have Evan Neal, who was taken 2 years ago. Are they going to invest another top 10 pick in an offensive tackle? I don't necessarily see it. Maybe they want to kick Evan Neal inside to guard, but as far as I know, that hasn't really been considered. So Malik Nabers is going to be the new pass catcher for the New York Giants. At number 7, we're going with the Tennessee Titans taking Joe Alt. This one has me sad because I want Joe Alt to fall to my Jets, but this is an all-round, well-rounded tackle here. 6'8", 315 pounds. This guy's a monster. He's an absolute house. First team All-American, over 2,200 snaps at left tackle. He's only allowed 4 sacks, 24 pressures, and had 4 penalties in his career. This guy is an absolute dominating force on that Notre Dame front. He is a dominating pass protector. So obviously, and a mauler in the run game. This guy, like, well-rounded. Like, there's other guys where you might say, like, Fashanu is a little bit more of a pass protector. Fuaga is a little bit more of a run defender. Well, this guy's like the hybrid of both of those. He's good at picking up stunts and blitzes, and then he relies more on his arms than his kick slide. So he might have to get a little bit more speed in his drop back and pass sets. But overall, this is a great pick by the Tennessee Titans. Now, maybe they go wide receiver in some capacity. Their head coach did come from Cincinnati. I know people have talked about how Cincinnati, when they seemingly needed an offensive lineman to protect Joe Burrow after his injury, they wound up going out and getting Jamar Chase. Now, I don't know if there's that type of, could they go with Odunze? I don't know if that's necessarily their pick. At number 8, the Atlanta Falcons with Raheem Morris, defensive head coach, coming in. They're going to take their best defensive player on the board. Right here, I have them taking Dallas Turner, the edge out of Alabama. He's 6'4", 242 pounds. At 21 years old, he has over 1,600 snaps at edge. He has an explosive first step. His coverage grade, solid as well. This guy can drop back and cover running backs, tight ends, and even some wide receivers. It's absolutely wild. Coverage grade ended up as an 81 overall. He's good in the 2-point or 3-point stance. So you can have him standing up on the edge. You can have him with his hand in the dirt. Good arm length. Navigates through blockers well. May need to bulk up a little bit. At 242 pounds, you might want to see, like, if he's one of those, if he's going to have his hand in the dirt, you probably want to gain a little bit more weight there. But overall, I like this move. You could argue quarterback. I don't think there's a quarterback that they would necessarily want here. I do think they're actually going to make a trade for Justin Fields. Or maybe a Russell Wilson or something like that comes in on the vet minimum. So I don't think quarterback's going to be a huge need for them right here at the top. Maybe wide receiver is where I've seen some people pencil him in for. Maybe a trade down opportunity for a team that wants to come up and maybe get a receiver in front of the next pick. But we shall see. I like defensive player here. At number 9, I got the Bears taking Rome Odunze. I really like him a lot. First in deep catches, first in contested catches. At 6'3", 215 pounds, he provides some awesome size for any quarterback coming in. You pair him with Caleb Williams. I think this is a formidable duo, especially with him and DJ Moore. Team captain at Washington, over 1,200 snaps, nearly 1,300 snaps. He lined up 967 times out wide, 318 times in the slot. This past year had 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns. Gonna do all right. Gonna do all right. Bears get themselves a nice pass catcher there. This is somewhere I could see a team maybe considering trading up for either a quarterback or an offensive lineman just in front of the New York Jets. But I think take the best player on your board if you're the Chicago Bears. You have so many picks from that trade down from last year. I think it would be silly to not get a top guy for your new top quarterback. At number 10, my New York Jets, I'm going to take Olu Fashanu. There's been a lot of smoke around the New York Jets and Talise Funga, the right tackle from Oregon State, but I don't think that given this scenario, I would make that move. I wouldn't be upset with it, but I think it would be a little it's the weird left tackle, right tackle argument, right? And if we go back to the Mekhi Becton year, a lot of us wanted Wirfs, who was a right tackle instead of the left tackle, but the Jets made the pick to go left tackle. Joe Douglas is still a GM here. I could see him still wanting to do that. You could go either way. I think this pick is definitely going to be a tackle. I'm not going to be upset whichever way it goes. Olu's deemed the better pass protector with Aaron Rodgers. I would rather protect for the passing sets. He's a team captain, has over 1,300 snaps at left tackle. He's an exceptional athlete. He does need a little bit of work on his run blocking, but it's really not as bad as people make it out to be. This guy's going to be a stud left tackle for a long time here in the NFL. He had only had 5 career penalties on the offensive line. By comparison, Mekhi Becton this past year, I think had like 22 between declined penalties, offsetting penalties, and actually accepted penalties. So this would just be an absolute massive upgrade for the New York Jets at that particular position. I'm all about it. Protect Aaron Rodgers. Let's go win a chip. I want something special for next year. Number 11, we're looking at the Minnesota Vikings. I have them going with an edge rusher here, Jared Verse out of FSU. Now, they could be losing Danielle Hunter and Marcus Davenport at edge. They're both in void years of their contract. They could extend them, but they're getting up there a little. Well, Davenport's not that old. Davenport, I think, is like 27, 28 years old. Danielle Hunter's on the wrong side of 30 at this point. So could they be looking to upgrade for a much cheaper option, especially if they're looking to hold on to Kirk Cousins? I don't think they're going to go quarterback in this particular draft right now. I think they're going to roll Kirk a little bit longer. At 6'4", 260 pounds, he played over 1,700 snaps at edge between Albany and FSU. He has a seasoned pass rush plan. It's really cool to watch him as the game goes on, just switch up his different power to speed moves, the different spin moves that he's got. Explosive first step. He's got a good dip, nonstop motor, but maybe not so great at tackling in the open field. So maybe something to keep an eye on here. You'll see some of the highlights where he just over pursues and maybe needs to work on that a little bit. But I like this pick here for the Minnesota Vikings. At number 12, I got another quarterback going off the board. This is J.J. McCarthy from Michigan, going to the Denver Broncos. This is going to start being a trending pick, I think, across a lot of mock drafts. Is this too early? You obviously still have Michael Penix and Bo Nix. I don't love Bo Nix from how he performed at the Senior Bowl perspective. Is that something that changes throughout the combine process and pro days and all that? Maybe. With Penix, injury history, I like McCarthy here. He wasn't asked to do a whole lot of throwing at Michigan, but I think Sean Payton is going to value the development with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan and just understand that he's probably a little bit better suited for the NFL than maybe some of these other quarterbacks coming out. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. He was in a run-heavy offense, has over 1,800 snaps at quarterback. This past year had 72% completion percentage, 2,900 yards, 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He did have 39 rushes for 340 yards for 3 touchdowns. He has good deep ball accuracy. He's got a strong arm. The football IQ is the one part that we're not necessarily sure about because he just has not had enough time throwing the ball consistently. It wasn't relied on a whole lot. They ran the ball a lot down there in Michigan. And he's 25-1 as a starter. So when you want a guy that wins, this is it. Coming off a national championship, can't be too upset with that. He does bail from clean pockets occasionally, so he's got to learn to step up in the pocket and just deliver a clean football without having the seeing ghosts type of mentality or anything like that. But I like J.J. McCarthy there. Obviously, they're moving on from Russell Wilson with Denver. I don't think they have a second-round pick either. I'm pretty sure they're just one and done here. At number 13, we're going to take a look at the Raiders. I have them going with Talise Funga, the right tackle from Oregon State. He is 6'6", 334 pounds. This guy is an absolute mean SOB. Son of a batch of cookies in terms of the run game. This guy will absolutely road grade you. He's a lot of fun to watch in the run game. He dominated the Senior Bowl. He did have a high strength of schedule, one of the worst strength of schedules in college football, but because of how he dominated at the Senior Bowl, I don't think it's going to be a really big problem here. He only has 12 career penalties, and he gave up 0 sacks in his entire time at Oregon State. So this is the right move. Vegas is losing a few offensive linemen. They just lost their offensive line coach. I think they're going to try and protect whoever their quarterback is. I think it's going to end up being Russell Wilson. I think Russell's going to be a little ticked off at Denver, wind up trying to go to a division rival, trying to win some games down there. I really like Talise Funga. At number 14, we're going to go with the New Orleans Saints selecting J.C. Latham, the right tackle out of Alabama. He's 6'6", 360 pounds. This guy is absolutely enormous. He's got tree trunks for legs. He was a 5-star recruit going into college, and he's got over 1,700 snaps at right tackle. He did take 135 snaps at right guard, so maybe you have some positional flexibility if you want to keep Ryan Ramczyk out on the right-hand side for a little bit longer, but his knees are getting a little bit weaker as he goes on throughout his career. It's been a little bit of a problem there. He was first team All-SEC. He had the hardest strength of schedule of all the offensive tackles that I took a look at here with 6th overall, and he had 21 career penalties. So a little bit higher than some of our other offensive tackles, but by and large, this guy is an absolute monster. I've seen people compare him size-wise to Mekhi Becton, but I would not put him in that same category. The motivation doesn't appear to be the issue like it was with Mekhi Becton. And obviously, Mekhi Becton had the 2 knee injuries that kind of knocked him off his high horse a little bit there. I like J.C. Latham a lot here for the New Orleans Saints. Protect Derek Carr. Derek Carr. For a little bit longer. They could be looking at quarterback at some point in this draft, but I think it's a little too early for them here. At number 15, I'm going to have the Indianapolis Colts selecting Iowa cornerback safety Cooper DeJean. This is the cornerback class has me all sorts of perplexed. As I was doing this, I literally had a bunch of different cornerbacks, lined up 1 through 5, and then I flipped them all around consistently. I can't seem to get any good read on him, but Cooper DeJean seems to be going higher and higher on boards. You see Pro Football Focus has him up there as high as 8. We'll see if he continues to trend up this way. Maybe I'm just severely overdrafting him at this particular point in time. 6'1", 207 pounds. He's got 1,500 snaps under his belt. He's got some positional flexibility across cornerback and safety, and he does play special teams if you want to have him return some kicks. He allowed a 43% completion percentage when targeted. He only gave up 194 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions this past year. He was number 14 on Bruce Feldman's freak list. He's really good in zone coverage, really good in press man. He needs to work on his fluidity. He doesn't turn his hips quite so fast, so he needs to work on that in terms of opening up. Recovery speed to close gaps quickly. So if he does get beat, he does have the speed to catch back up. But again, if his technique gets polished up, this guy's going to be a really special corner in the NFL. I like this for the Indianapolis Colts. At number 16, we're going with the Seattle Seahawks, taking Laiatu Latu, the edge from UCLA. This guy almost had his career ended with a neck injury a few years ago. Wound up missing 2 seasons of football from 2020 and 2021. He's 6'4", 261 pounds. If this guy did not have that injury, I would bet he would be the first player off the board in terms of defense. Ted Hendricks Award winner for the top edge in the country. He had 62 pressures, 15 sacks, 33 stops, and 3 fumbles this past year. This guy's an absolute monster off the edge. He's got multiple pass rush moves, great hand technique. He does have to work a little bit on his run defense, but as far as an edge rusher goes, you're going to be pretty happy with this. He would be a top 10 pick, like I said, if it were not for his medicals. I like this pick for Seattle here, especially with a new defensive head coach in McDonald up there. Set the tone early, get your guy that you want. At number 17, we're going to go for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have them going Brian Thomas Jr. here. Now, you could have them go offensive line potentially. You could have them go cornerback. I think Calvin Ridley's probably leaving in free agency. I think they're going to have to use the franchise tag on Josh Allen. So get your quarterback a top-end weapon. And at 6'4", 205 pounds, Brian Thomas provides a massive catch radius for your quarterback. He's got over 1,400 snaps in college, 88% out wide, 12% in the slot, 60 receptions this past year, over 1,000 yards, and 15 touchdowns. This guy is absolutely going to be a red zone threat down in Jacksonville. Impressive size, speed, burst that you look for in the NFL. He's got really good ball tracking ability, really good at deep and underneath routes. He does need to work on his overall route tree. You're not going to see him cutting too frequently. He's more of a like a comeback style receiver or a jump ball receiver. So maybe work a little bit on those routes. Is he a one-year wonder, or is this the beginning of a trend? Now, obviously, maybe exploded onto the scene here this past year. He was deemed, I think, more of like a second, third round pick heading into the season. So he's really worked his way up boards. I like him here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. At number 18, we're going to go Cincinnati Bengals, taking Tyler Guyton, the tackle out of Oklahoma. I think Jonah Williams is likely leaving in free agency. The Bengals are going to want to upgrade at the right tackle position. And this guy has 900 snaps at the position, and he's got elite size. Elite size. Like, if this guy had more snaps at right tackle, he'd probably looked at even higher in this class at 6'7", 328 pounds. He's exactly what NFL scouts love in a tackle. Impressed at the Senior Bowl. He's got a strong pass block sets, strong anchor. His run blocking might be a little suspect at times, but when you got T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, I think you're going to be focusing a little bit more on the passing game in Cincinnati. Limited playing time, might be a little raw, could take a minute for him to develop, but overall, I really like this pick. This guy's screaming up draft boards, and once the combine comes around and guys start taking a look a little bit more at his metrics, I think this will even be a better pick at some point. Number 19 with the Rams, you could have them go in a whole bunch of different directions, but I have them going with the cornerback Nate Wiggins out of Clemson here at number 19. He's 6'2", 185 pounds. He has over 1,200 snaps at cornerback. This past year allowed a 43.9% completion percentage, only 176 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and 4 pass breakups. He has great size for contested catch opportunities. When you're talking about 6'4" wide receivers in the NFL, a lot of corners are sitting there at like 5'11". If you can get your corner to be a bigger bodied guy, you're going to have a lot more opportunities down the field to make some interceptions and some plays on the ball. He's really good at man coverage, really good defending deep routes. He does need to work on his run defense. He's not going to stick his nose in there and tackle quite so much. As I say that, while a highlight of him tackling is currently on the screen. And he's disciplined. He only has 8 career penalties throughout his collegiate career. So if you're looking for someone that's not going to get you in a whole lot of pass interference trouble, this could be your guy right here. I like this pick for the LA Rams. At number 20, I have the Steelers going back to the well. They're going to take their bookend tackle. They took Broderick Jones last year in front of my Jets. At number 14 this year, they're going with Amarius Mims on the right-hand side at number 20 out of Georgia. 6'7", 340 pounds. This guy has elite size as well. And if he had more snaps at tackle, just like Tyler Guyton, he would be looked at a lot more favorably in this class as well. I think he only has 800 snaps at right tackle. He missed 6 games with an ankle this past year, 45th strength of schedule. So about middle of the pack as far as the tackles go. 1 penalty in 30 games. So the guy does not get penalized much throughout the course of the season. This is someone I could see rising up boards. I love this class of tackles. And you could argue a few different tackles you want at this particular spot, but I like Amarius Mims here. I actually had him in my top 5 players the Jets should consider at number 10. That might be a little too rich for him, but sitting here at 20, I'm happy with this pick for the Steelers. At number 21, I have the Dolphins selecting Jackson Powers Johnson, the center from Oregon. He is 6'3", 334 pounds. He took over 1,300 snaps at center and guard. He's got positional flexibility across the line. You can see 27 snaps at left guard, 893 snaps at center, 1 year starting as a center, 430 snaps at right guard, 5 snaps at right tackle. He dominated at the Senior Bowl, but like I said, only 1 year starting at center. And this guy, he was probably the best offensive lineman at the Senior Bowl, and to see him play that way after 1 year just kind of shows you just how far his upside could potentially be. He was the Remington Trophy Award recipient for the best center in the country. He's really good in the run blocking game, really good in the pass blocking game, and really good in the screen blocking game. So for Miami, who just lost Connor Williams to a torn ACL in December this past year and maybe losing Robert Hunt in free agency, this is a player that could fulfill a few different positions on the interior of that offensive line and give you that flexibility up front. Only 10 career penalties at center this year. I think I typoed that. I think he's got 10 career penalties overall. But either way, this guy's a dominant force. I like this selection for the Miami Dolphins. At number 22, we're going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles taking a cornerback here, helping out that secondary. They were one of the worst in the NFL this past year. Quinyon Mitchell also dominated at the Senior Bowl. 6 foot tall, 195 pounds. He's got over 2,200 snaps at cornerback. This past year allowed 27 receptions, a 43.8% completion percentage, and only 290 yards. 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 14 pass breakups. This guy gets his hand on the ball. It wouldn't shock me if some team wanted to make him the top cornerback off the board. Like I said, this cornerback class is so congested at the top. You can really have your pick of the litter as far as which flavor you like of cornerback. They're saying he clocked in at 23.58 miles an hour at some point, and Tyreek Hill, by example, runs a 22 mile an hour speed. Now, I guess I don't know entirely if that 23.5 was like on a track or something, and Tyreek Hill is just in pads. But either way, when you're being compared speed-wise to one of the fastest players in the NFL, you're looking pretty nice. His ball skills are really good. Zone coverage is really good. Needs a little bit of help in man coverage, but overall, I'm not too concerned based on how he performed at the Senior Bowl. So I would take that as not quite a knock. Physical freak with a ton of upside here for the Philadelphia Eagles. At number 23, I have the Texans going with edge or defensive lineman Jerzon Newton out of Illinois, 6'2", 295 pounds. He has 725 snaps at defensive tackle and over 1,000 snaps at edge rush. He had 8 sacks this past year, 32 stops and 2 fumbles. He shines as an edge rusher, but the fact that he has that positional flexibility is going to be really valuable in a 49ers-style defense. I know our 49ers-style defense for the Jets likes their positional flexibility up front. I'm sure DeMeco Ryans is probably feeling the same way down in Houston. He's a little bit undersized as a defensive tackle, so he'll probably stay a little bit more on the outside at the next level. He's a strategic pass rusher with multiple moves. Good pass rush, good get-off speed, needs to work on his run defense, and struggles versus double teams at times just due to his size. But overall, I like this. If he bulks up a little bit more, I think he'll be just fine in the NFL. Number 24, this one may seem like a little bit of a reach, but I like the positional flexibility that he provides, and that is Graham Barton, the offensive lineman out of Duke for the Cowboys, 6'5", 314 pounds. He's got over 2,100 snaps at left tackle and over 1,000 snaps at center. So if you have Fredericks, who's getting up there in age, you want to replace him, boom, you got your center. If you're thinking about Tyron Smith leaving in free agency, boom, you got your left tackle there in Barton as well. Due to his arm length, likely to be an interior offensive lineman, but we saw Elijah Vera Tucker on our New York Jets go from left tackle in college to guard and then bounce back out to tackle in a pinch in the NFL. So I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue. He has agility and spatial intelligence. Spatial intelligence? As far as zone scheme blocking, his footwork leaves him suspect to rushers, is what his scouting reports say. Pass blocking, run blocking, both good, and has 22 career penalties over the course of 4 years. So you're probably averaging a little over 5 penalties per season, which really isn't all that bad, all things considered. I like this pick for the Cowboys, considering some of their offensive line questions that may be coming up in the next few years, and they seem to value offensive line regardless of where they're at. At Green Bay, number 25, I have the Packers selecting Terrion Arnold, who could be the best cornerback in this league. I keep saying this, could be the best cornerback in this class. Out of Alabama. 6 foot tall, 196 pounds. He has nearly 1,400 snaps at cornerback, allowed a 51.9% completion percentage this past year, 2 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and had 13 pass breakups. He was first team All-American in 2023. He's really good at mirroring wide receivers, great lateral agility. Ball tracking downfield creates those interceptions and pass breakups, like I mentioned. This guy could absolutely be the first corner off the board. You can see Pro Football Focus and all these different scouting sites at the bottom there all have him in the top 20, so having him at 25 might be a little bit of a reach here. Good press man corner, good in zone, good against the run. 7 penalties over the course of 2 years, so he's not going to get you flagged too frequently here. I think this is a good move for Green Bay, considering you don't know if Jair Alexander could potentially get moved in the upcoming future. I think this would be a nice pick for them. At number 26 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I have them going with Keon Coleman, the wide receiver out of FSU. Keeping the guy in Florida, 6'4", 215 pounds. This guy's an outside X wide receiver. You have Mike Evans going to hit free agency this year. I think they're going to end up franchise tagging him, so you're going to want to find an era replacement for him in the future. And either way, even if you sign him to a contract, you still have Chris Godwin going into the final year of his contract. I think this would be a worthwhile move for them at this point in their team building stage. 1,400 snaps, 82% of those taken out wide, 18% in the slot. This past year had 50 receptions, 658 yards, 11 touchdowns, and had a contested catch rate of 45.8%. That's actually over the course of his career is a 45.8%. So he's pretty good at coming down with the ball. This past year, I think, was a little bit worse than that. But overall, really good. Massive catch radius at that enormous frame. Really good at high pointing the ball. He spent 2 years at Michigan State before transferring to FSU. He has gravity-defying catches on his highlight tape. You'll see that, and a really, really big red zone threat. So something that he could step into once Mike Evans is gone in Tampa Bay. And like I said, good at jump ball ability, has really good yak ability. Needs to work a little bit on his routes, but at his size, it's a little less of a concern. I like this pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At number 27 for the Cardinals, I have them taking offensive tackle Jordan Morgan out of Arizona, keeping another guy in the state, within the state. Now, the Cardinals are in a weird spot because DJ Humphries just tore his ACL in, I think it was week 17 or 18 in the NFL season, so he's going to miss basically the entirety of next year. You want to protect Kyler Murray. I wanted to potentially go offensive line early for them, but at number 4, you get your wide receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr. This guy's 6'4", has over 2,300 snaps at left tackle. He tore his ACL in 2022, but he has fully recovered. And you saw him do that throughout the course of this past year, having a career year this past year with an 87.3 pass blocking grade. He gave up 2 sacks, 14 pressures, and 4 penalties. He was first team All Pac-12, could be a possible guard at the next level as well. So a little bit of positional flexibility from that perspective. Instinctual blocker for stunts and blitzes, so he doesn't get confused when he's getting thrown a whole bunch of stuff at the front line there. Complete effort and love for the game were 2 things I saw consistently pop up in his scouting reports. So that's like something that really means a lot for NFL teams. This guy needs to be invested into the NFL. You can't have a guy that's coming in and just wants to be all about himself or all about the fame. We kind of saw that with Mekhi Becton for the New York Jets, and it didn't really lead to good things here. Pass blocking grade, really good. Run blocking grade, really good. Needs to work on his dropbacks, but overall, this is a really good tackle that I think is going to continue to move up boards. You can see his big board rankings not crazy high right now, but I do expect that to change as we move throughout the offseason. The Bills, I wanted to pencil them in for Keon Coleman, but I had him going a little bit earlier. So I have them taking Troy Franklin, the wide receiver out of Oregon. Another big body wide receiver at 6'3", 187 pounds. So not a heavy wide receiver, but a tall, fast wide receiver. Has nearly 1,800 snaps at wide receiver, 79% of those taking out wide, 21% in the slot. This past year had nearly 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns on his 81 receptions. He was first team All Pac-12 in 2023, and he was second team All Pac-12 in 2022. He's a really good deep threat, can take the top off of a defense. With Gabe Davis likely not returning in Buffalo, this would be a perfect number 2 complement opposite Stefon Diggs. Really good route runner, long strides due to that frame. He beats zone coverage. He does need to add a little bit of weight, I think. 187 is pretty light for that size of wide receiver, and he's not really going to be a good contested catch guy. So he's going to have a clean catch with a strong quarterback throwing him the arm. Josh Allen is just that. At number 29, I have the Lions taking Kool-Aid McKinstry, and again, a cornerback that could be going much higher in this draft, but I have him falling down based on how condensed these cornerback rankings are at the top of the draft here. He is 6'1", 195 pounds. He had nearly 2,200 snaps at cornerback during his time in college. He was first team All-Pro in 2023 and 2022. Great lateral agility, fluid hips, physical cornerback, willing tackler in the run game. He does allow a little bit too much separation and may wind up shifting into a nickel role in the NFL. I've seen some people consider maybe putting him at safety as well. I think this is almost, I guess he would be paired up with Brian Branch as well, which would be sort of fun to see them together in Detroit. Good at press man, good at tackling, and deep ball coverage. Leaves a little bit to be desired here. But overall, I think you could be very happy with Kool-Aid McKinstry, especially at this point in the first round. At number 30, I have the Baltimore Ravens selecting Darius Robinson. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a reach right now, but this guy is going to go up draft boards. His flexibility on the defensive line is so nice to have. He took 867 snaps at defensive tackle, 631 snaps at edge rush. At 6'5", 286 pounds, he'll be able to play pretty much anywhere on that defensive line. 1,500 snaps over the course of 5 years. He had 42 pressures this past season, 9 sacks, and 27 stops. So this guy's good against the run. This guy's good against the pass. He's a chess piece on the defensive line, and he was first team All SEC. Inside and outside pass rusher, he faced a ton of double teams this past year, and he blew up the Senior Bowl. When he went against his peers, he dominated. Absolutely dominated. I like this move. Over-reliant on his power at times, so maybe he has to work a little bit more on technique, I think is what they're implying here. But I like this move for the Baltimore Ravens. At number 31, I have the 49ers going with a guard-tackle hybrid. This is Troy Fautanu out of Washington. He would play left tackle at Washington, but chances are he could be moving inside to guard at the next level. Has 2,000 snaps at left tackle at 6'4", 320 pounds. Allowed 3 sacks, 43 pressures, and 16 penalties over the course of 4 years. So really not bad. 4 penalties a year is pretty nice. First team All Pac-12, positional flexibility, as I mentioned, mauling run blocker, looks to hit people in the mouth. This guy will punish you. Get you a good blocker. Maybe someone to step in for Trent Williams in the event he winds up hanging it up in the next few years here, but use him at guard for the time being. Like I said, arm length could be a concern at the next level. Maybe he's not going to play tackle, but can't be upset with the guard here. Pass block, good. Run block, good. Hand placement, might need a little bit of work from everything I was reading. So good pick here for the San Francisco 49ers. At number 32 overall, we got Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver out of Texas. Kansas City needs some wide receivers. Kadarius Toney, he ain't it. Mecole Hardman probably ain't it, even if he just caught the touchdown that won them the Super Bowl this past year. 6'4", 196 pounds. I really like A.D. Mitchell a lot. I had him going a lot lower initially in my mock draft at the beginning of this past season. He is much higher now. Now, this could be a second-round pick, but I think with Kansas City, you just take the best wide receiver on the board here. He was a Georgia transfer, a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, played 87% of his snaps out wide, 13% in the slot. He had 55 receptions, 845 yards this past year with 11 touchdowns. He's a high IQ route runner, and he has great deep ball tracking ability. This guy just always seems to have that sort of clutch factor when it comes to making big plays at big points. There are some concerns with high pointing the ball because he's not a very heavy or imposing wide receiver. He's definitely a lanky kind of guy. But good routes, good catch radius, and needs to work on press man coverage. But this guy is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm excited to see him go play throughout the combine. So boys and girls, that is my 32-team mock draft. I'm going to have a bunch of these coming out throughout the offseason. If you like what you saw here, please hit that like button. I'll leave all those players and picks down below in the first comment down below in the pinned comment. So if you guys want to jump around or even just go back and see some of the slides that I had to recognize some of the players, more than welcome to do that. Don't forget to leave a comment down below with who you think your team should select. And as always, go Jets. J-E-T-S